this year, I present myself, I present what I do, I present what evidence I might have. I want to present to the public to let you guys become aware of that we're out here. This is what we do, you know. I have several associated with me throughout the state of Virginia, and a lot of people, I have support and, you know, members actually outside of the East Coast, you know, and it reaches pretty far and beyond. So anyway, you know, we have got people that are always sharing their inputs and everything, and we believe in spreading awareness. And I can't stress that enough, spreading awareness about who we are and what we do, because there's people out there we want to hear from. There's people out there that have experienced something, have seen something, they can't explain, or they're scared to come forward. But you know, with us presenting ourselves and opening up to the public, you know, we're letting you guys know, hey, you can count on us, you can contact us. You know, we're not going to ridicule you, because that's why a lot of people, you know, they hesitate. They fear, you know, opening up to people. And me, I've dealt with it all, and it does not bother me. And I've had a lot of negative input, a lot of ridicule, mockery, even from my own family members. Some of them actually starting to open up a little bit. You know, they're not being so objective towards it. You know, some of them are even considering the possibility. So, you know, together, you know, we're going to explore, research, and discover. And, you know, the more we come together as a, you know, community, and anybody who's ever experienced something, we share from one another, and, you know, and we kind of go from there, you know. So, bring awareness, to me, is a form of educating, you know. And for the record, I am not no expert in any field whatsoever, you know. You know, I'm somebody, I do a lot of my own research and studies out of the field. You know, I have boots on the ground experience. I'm well acquainted with nature and wildlife. You know, I've had a lot of encounters with wildlife. As far as apex predators go, bears, I've had a lot of close and distant experiences with bears, and so forth. So, you know, again, you're going to hear me talk a lot about wildlife. Wildlife is very important to understand. Wildlife is very, what's the right word to put it, is misidentified or not understood. You know, a lot of people misidentify a lot of what is known, especially when it comes to, you know, animal tracks. You know, the things we find in the woods, we want to say it's Bigfoot, not back up. There's other responsible beings that live here. A lot of people involved with Bigfoot research, or they go out looking for Bigfoot. Again, they forget, hey, there's other animals that live here. There's other animals that are responsible for this. So Brianna. So again, you know, that's why we're here. I had chosen these 3 photos for very good reasons. One, you know, all right, here we got a gorilla right here. You know, a gorilla seen walking bipedal. That's rare, and usually when they do walk bipedal, but not for long periods of time. All right. If you're not familiar with the Roger Patterson footage, this is the still shot from the 1967 footage right here. And of course, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. Roger Patterson, this actually, they surnamed this one Patty. For, if it's not obvious, why we got a female figure here, you know. So yeah, they nicknamed this Patty. So, all right, and then over here on your far right, this is a artist drawing, Nathan Hillman, if I remember correctly. This drawing over here was gathered, or put together. This gentleman, this artist who drew this right here, was a sketch drawing from like several eyewitness descriptions about what's seen today. So, you know, I want you to take a good look at these here. These images here, you know, a lot of people are not going to agree, especially those involved with the Bigfoot community, because there's a lot of people will tell you, well, it's not this, it's not that, it's this, or it's that, which they may claim that what it is wrong, because for one thing, Bigfoot has not been discovered. It's been cited, it does not make it a discovery. And I'll kind of try to get into that here shortly. All right. You know, one of the studies I do, one of the researches I do is our known primates, gorillas and chimpanzees, because there is so much about these creatures that, you know, I'm not a primatologist, but I've done a lot of research, you know, comparing notes about what our known primates do, chimpanzees, gorillas, their behaviors, their actions, their diets, everything they're known for doing. We actually experience it. For those who have experienced it, we've been out in the forest enough here in North America, will tell you, if you compare notes, you'll find that, wait a minute, what we're experiencing here, gorillas and chimpanzees do the same thing. Even the vocalizations that we experience are here. So, now, don't get me wrong, I'm not calling Bigfoot a prime, I'm not equalizing him to a chimpanzee or gorilla. In my honest opinion, I do believe that Bigfoot is some form of primate. Okay? You know, but in a way, I believe he is a primate or an ape of its own kind. We can't sit down and say, well, it is this or it is that. I'm going to tell you why, because science for one thing, objects to the possibility of Bigfoot. There is some scientists who are considering it. There is some scientists, anthropologists, you know, and so forth, that are actually have stepped foot into this. There is biologists, wildlife biologists, that are believing into the possibility of this. The late Dr. John Bindernagel out of British Columbia. He recently passed away a few months back, and tell you what, he's stepped foot and gone pretty in depth with his research with Bigfoot. And you know, and he was actually a colleague to one of my guest speakers at our previous conference that we had back in June, and where they've actually shared and exchanged a lot of notes, a lot of footcasts, and Mr. Darby Orcutt from North Carolina State University. I'm in close touch with him as we share a lot of information, and he kind of shares his expertise, his education with me on a lot of what we're working on offside, and he's actually got a project on the low key, kind of kept somewhat on the low key, but he shares a lot of it openly with me, where it involves primatologists, other biologists, and so forth, where there's projects that are taking place to consider, you know, trying to open science up to look at this a little bit more in depth, because there's evidence out there that we have that science says that's not good enough. But there's steps and procedures that are trying to take place, that we're trying to put in motion with protocol. You know, there's certain steps. If we do things right, then just maybe they'll may consider it or classify it as evidence. So yeah, I laid these three up here again because, again, we got a gorilla, you know, we got the image from Patterson, and we got artist drawing gathered from several eyewitnesses. Now, a lot of people will tell you, well, when I see him, he looked like a human. You know, everybody's description is going to be different. You know, so you know, that's something to consider. There's different images out there, and there's different descriptions out there. This here, that actually is funny. This one here, the one from the artist, a friend of mine who's not here, he lives down in Whitfield, Virginia. He actually had a sketch drawing of what he had a sighting of. That happened about 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. Mr. Tracy Arnold from Whitfield, Virginia. His sketch drawing, that when he gave his description, his details, it wasn't far off from this one here, on the far right here, which I was actually pretty impressed to know. And I've seen others that, you know, a lot of other ones, they always say they have the crowned, you know, sagittal crest or pointy head. So to me, that's I don't know, a lot of them are pointing in that direction, you know. Then again, you got some say that they look more Neanderthal, you know. I'm not going to get into it, but there's said to be so many different types of Bigfoot. So But that's something for another time. I'm not going to get into that. It's too much to try to talk and explain over. So as we go into the next slide, we reach some questions. And you know, for skeptics, non-believers, some of these questions are common. The body, okay? Where's the body? If Bigfoot's real, where's the body? Where's the remains? You know? So, you know, we're going to look at the body with the evidence. You know, the body would be considered evidence, or what evidence do we have? These are very tough ones to look at. And again, I'm going to try my best to explain these. Now, for the, this basically, again, this goes for the non-believer or skeptics. And even us believers and knowers, we have to question these things. We have to try to understand things. If we're going to try to do what I'm doing, explain, because I try to explain things in the most logical manner, and try to get people to understand, again, what I share with you is not the right answer. It can be, but I can't say it is, because this is my opinion. This is my belief. So the question is, if Bigfoot's real, where's the body? Where are the remains? So, one other, for those who maybe had watched the show Finding Bigfoot, Cliff Brackman actually shares something very similar. He gets into more detail, which I'll be glad to read it off, but I'm not going to. But he shares something very similar to the way I point out to others. When people ask me, why haven't we found remains of a Bigfoot, if they do exist? Well, come back. I'm going to come back and ask the same, not the same question, but come back with a question. How many people have found the remains of a bear that's died of natural causes? How many people have found a mountain lion that's died of natural causes? All right. I'll use a bear, a mountain lion as, as an example. We do know they exist. As far as the mountain lion, there's been several eyewitnesses here in Virginia. I saw one myself back in 2015. But now, as far as bears, we know they exist, and they're very heavily existing here in Virginia. They're seen all over the place, the Blue Ridge Mountains, out in the George Washington National Forest. I spent a lot of time out in the National Forest. I've been pretty close to some bears, and then I've seen some in the distance. And thank God I've been in my vehicle when I've seen the bigger one. But, so yeah, again, it's a very rare thing. So think about it. Where are the body? Where are these apex predators dying? When they die of a natural cause, what do? I mean, why aren't we not finding them? I'm not saying people don't find them, but how often do you hear about it? I could think about it right offhand myself. Personally, I don't know if anyone who's ever come forward and said, yeah, there's a dead body of one 3 miles up the bridge there. I said, well, okay, well, I never heard anything similar. So, it's believed that a lot of these apex predators, I'm going to use a bear or a cat, for example, it's believed that there's a possibility that they believe their time of death is approaching. They may be ill. A bear, they may go find a den, or some underbrush. Just like a cat, let's look at your average house cat. Just recently on social media, I seen a lady posted that her cat's been missing for the last, maybe almost a week. And I never got a response. I was just curious. I said, how old is the cat? Because I was going to reply, if she gave me, if it was a much old cat, I was going to say, well, cats, when they get sick and ill, there's a time where they've been known to go off on their own in peace, to die off. Cats do that. Bears, I believe, do this very same thing. Question is Sasquatch doing it? There's a possibility, but we haven't witnessed that. We haven't seen that. So now with that being said, there's another thing to look at, which I didn't really add on here right now. But as far as remains of of any apex predator that's died of natural causes, let's look at Bigfoot. Bigfoot, if he is a type of primate, which I believe he is. Again, I'm not equalizing him to a gorilla or a chimpanzee, a bonobo, so forth. But let's look at a chimpanzee or a gorilla chimpanzees and gorillas, their bones are not like humans. They're totally different. In the rainforest or wherever the soil has high acidic levels, a primate's bones will not be preserved, or last as long as a human's. They decompose and break down really fast. So it's very rare for a primate's bones to exist for so long. You've got the breakdown process, which I'm not going to get into that. If you get into farming and so forth, this breakdown process of decay leading into the skeletalization period, I can get into all that, but I'm not going to. But just to bring up the acidic levels with a primate, their soil, their bones do not last long. And that's fact. If you look into your research and do some primate studies on bones, you'll actually learn this. It's all fact when it comes to primates. Their bones do not preserve, they're not preserved like humans. Now I'm not saying, again, I have to be careful how I present this. When it comes to Bigfoot, because I like to compare Bigfoot with our primates, because there's a lot of similarities, as I pointed out. It's believed that Bigfoot is a type of primate, or could be a type of primate. I believe he is a type of primate or ape of its own species. So, if there's any truth behind that, all right, there's another possibility why we're not finding bones. Okay? So, then again, like I said about the bears and the cats, they get ill, they know their time of death, they may go down into a den or a cave, whatever it may be, deep down in the forest where it's very rare for them to, where it's very hard for them to be found or located. So, Fred and Connie, come on up. Yeah, real quick, this is my good friend Fred and Connie. They just recently got married, so congratulations. All right, so the other thing we got here, technology, cameras, technology, so forth. We got, I can get into a lot of that. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of theory on why we have not captured proof, and that that's another difficult one to kind of explain. There's a lot of belief that I got trail cameras set out in the woods right now. They've been out for a month and a half because they're set up in the area where I hunt, because I'm a deer hunter, and, I'm watching because I'm studying the behaviors of the deer that come through there, and, a lot of people, believe that it's impossible to catch a Sasquatch on a trail camera. Because, it's like, a lot of people say, well, Sasquatch, they see the cameras. I don't deny that, because if you ever watch a trail camera, look, I've had several deer looking right into it, Deer look into it, bears look into it. Bears they're well familiar with their trail cameras. I've had a bear tear mine down before, and so yeah, but does Bigfoot really know what a trail camera is? I mean, so there's theory where there's people that will say, yeah, Bigfoot, they'll reach their hand in front of it, or, whatever. Maybe. I mean, so, I don't know, there's people out there with cameras and technology that get these photos. There's some that have been on social media recently, and I'm very objective when it comes to what's put on social media. But then again, I believe some of them are very questionable. Like, this could be something, there's a lot of people that will run with what's on social media, and then it's just what's on there, anything that's presented, whatever evidence it may be whatsoever, it just seriously needs to be taken with a grain of salt, It's very important to be objective, and, I don't know if we'll ever get a good photo. I mean, the Patterson footage, again, that was taken with, if I'm not mistaken, with a 16mm camera back in 1967. So, what were you going to say?
19mm camera.
19? I think 16. Okay. So, yeah, so I mean, I don't know. That's the best footage, again, 1967. That's pretty good. Look at today's technology. We've got really great technologies. Yes?
curious in all, because you've done a lot more research obviously than I have. Has there ever been any scat found that they believe is linked to this?
Well, that's a good question. As far as scat, there's actually been a lot of mysterious scats, different scat found. As far as I know, none that's ever been tested. Because people ask, could DNA be extracted from scat? Now, I'm not no expert, but I believe it's good. Yes, it can be, especially depending on their diet, whatever's got to go through their digestive system and everything else. There's got to be some kind of DNA on it, besides the other bacteria that's involved. But yeah, there's a lot of alleged scat evidence that people associate with Bigfoot. But to be honest with you, I really don't know. Like I said, nothing's. If it has been tested, I'm unaware. So, but yeah, there's a lot of alleged different pieces of evidence that we gather. Even if dead animal remains, that we believe that it could be from associated with Bigfoot. For example, I know Fred and Connie, I know you guys seen this. Mike, you've probably seen this on social media. I don't know what state, this might be British Columbia, but there's elk and animals found up in trees, and we're talking about trees with no branches and limbs. How did they get put up on top of it? It's like a straight pole with an animal 15, 20 feet up in the air. What put it there? Now, we know cats, a lot of times they do this kind of thing, but they usually need something to climb up. They usually have, cats are found in trees, usually with limbs and stuff. It's mysterious. There's a lot of mysterious evidence out there that we like to believe will point towards this might be Bigfoot. Then again, it's kind of hard to say because we didn't witness it, or we don't have no evidence showing it actually taking place. But so yeah, as far as technology, I think technology is a tough one. We've come a long ways. We have, it's not often that people experimented with drones. There's been a few that have, come forward and believe that there's been sightings with drones, or they pick up images, but even the images are too inconclusive to say if it's Bigfoot or not. So there's a lot that we have to be careful at looking at. So before we go to the next slide, was there any other questions or anything that I might have been speaking on about this?
Question?
Yes.
Have you actually ever had a sighting?
I'm going to answer that with a yes or no reply, which I'm going to explain it to the best of my ability. I had back in 2014, I actually had an encounter. I wasn't alone. It was during a camping expedition in West Augusta, and there were 6, including myself. There were 6 of us involved, and we were about a mile out from our campsite, and we were, where we were located at, and we were starting to work our way back towards camp. Now keep in mind, this was actually late at night. So it was late at night, and to be more exact, it was right after midnight. Now we were working our way back to camp. There were 6 of us. We were working up the forest road. We all had the headlamps on. We had plenty of light around us. And as we were working our way back up the road, from where we were, posted up at, we were observed, there's some deer on the side of the road. We picked up their eye shine, and so forth. But, we're walking along, not trying to keep quiet. We're just doing our thing, and kind of almost in a single file line, just taking our time, headed back to camp. And I'm actually the one that's up ahead of everybody. I'm just kind of riding my eye left and right, and all of a sudden something catches my attention. And I'm looking over on the left-hand side, and what I'm looking at, for a split second, what I thought I was looking at was, anybody who's been in the national forest enough will know that there's sometimes there's these little yellow metal signs, and a lot of them are, some of them might say no vehicle beyond this point, or whatever it may be. So I thought my headlamp was reflecting off something, and I'm like hypnotized and staring at this. I said, what is that? Then all of a sudden I get more into focus, because what I see next is it blinked its eyes, and that's, when it blinked, it's when I realized it was actually a set of eyes. And I turned around, my buddy Tracy Arnold, he was the next one right behind me. I was like, Tracy, get up here, we got eye shine. And as soon as he got up there, I pointed right before it looked like it disappeared. The first thought that ran through my head, because it was sitting kind of low, because at the time I didn't realize the ground off the side of the forest where it sloped way down, about five feet or so. But the first thing that ran through my head was, I'm not going to use the language I used at the time, but I was like, is that a mountain lion? You know, because the large yellow looking glowing eyes. And I mean, because you know, at the time before I seen a mountain lion in that area, I've always heard about them being in the area, and that's what had me, I was slightly shocked. I was like, because I didn't know what I was looking at. I said, I knew that wasn't no bear, because I've seen plenty of black bears, and a lot of black bears have the red eye shine that I've witnessed. But, so the first thought that ran through my head, you know, my mind was, that's a mountain lion. Could that be a mountain lion? And then Tracy yelled up to everybody else, guys, get up here, we got eye shine. And whatever that was, all right, apparently turned off and went back. We all regrouped and got into that location where we saw it. And all of a sudden, when we all start facing into that direction, we're all looking in there, and all of a sudden we picked up the eye shine again. And whatever it's doing, whatever it is at the time, we didn't know what we were observing, but it was doing this swaying side to side thing. And it was only probably about 4, close to 5 feet tall, which we learned about height. We learned about the height of what we were observing after a while, and I'll get into that. You know, as far as the height and everything, yeah, like I said, we determined it was about 4 feet tall. You know, we're witnessing this subject, this creature, whatever it was at the time, swaying side to side. And, you know, we're kind of like almost scratching our head. I'm like, what in the world is that? Then during this observation, we noticed to the right of it, probably about 4 or 5 feet away, we noticed another set of eye shine. This other set of eye shine, same kind of eye shine, large, bright yellow eyes, and they were pretty obvious they were eyes. This one here was around 6 foot tall, and it was just staring dead at us. Now keep in mind, this was after midnight. We all had headlamps on, and we're looking into the woods where it's all pure darkness. And with all the lights that we had, you know, I didn't understand why are we only picking up eye shine and not a figure of a body. And it was kind of mysterious there for a little while. But again, that second subject that was around 6 foot tall, we noticed and observed that it was blinking its eyes. And you know, and then the other one, the little one, is still there swaying side to side. And you know, all these thoughts were running through all our minds, and then, you know, one of the things that passed through my mind, I was like, I wasn't thinking it then and there. I was like, a chimpanzee sways like that. Monkeys and gorillas sway like that. But you know, I was like, I wasn't really focused on really all that at that time. So during that observation, I forget which one of us, it may have been me or Tracy, but somebody had pointed out there was a third set of eye shine to the right of the 6 foot one. And it looked like it was right behind the bushes, and it was crouched down. And at that point, we saw it. When we all took notice of it, it was slowly raising up. It was getting taller and taller. And then, at that point, when it stood all the way up, which we believe it was crouched down and stood up, because it was looking down at the 6 foot one by roughly almost 1.5 feet, 2 feet. So here we are. We have one that's about 4 feet, 6 foot, and then here's one that we determined and concluded that it was about 8 foot tall. Now this is where it gets a little interesting. Not just that because it was tall. Well, we're looking at this because it's at one point, this is where I started to believe what we were seeing were squatches. Until this day, looking back at everything, which I'll explain because we tried to debunk the situation and everything. The tall subject, it actually had movement with it, where it literally took a step to the side, turned to the side, took a step, and then looked back at us. During that movement, this is exactly what we picked up. A silhouette, round shape, a big round head, and pretty broad looking shoulders. So at that point, we're like, we're not freaking out or nothing. There's actually video footage of this. One of the guys that was with us was recording all this. But in the video, you don't make nothing out. Some say they claim to see some of the eye shine, which to me it was I don't know, it was very hard to see for me, but some people said there was actually eye shine caught in the video. But yeah, as far as the tallest subject, there was silhouette that made out. And what I saw, I will tell you, it was not no bear. 8 foot tall, round head, broad shoulders, and yeah, I mean, and the thing is, during this whole incident, I mean, we're actually excited. You know, some of us were acting like little kids. Well, we had, Tracy had his son with him at that time. He was a young teenager, and so you know, we're observing this. Some of us were getting excited a little bit about this, and we had an older couple. They were, you know, it seemed like they were starting to freak out a little bit, but after this, they all seemed to turn around and disappear further into the darkness. But after we, you know, saw that, we started working our way back up the ground, up back towards camp. And if you listen, you can hear movement. It's like, you know, it sounded like they may have been walking parallel with us, or you could hear the snaps and, you know, everything on the ground. But we got back to our camp, and we were still pumped up about the whole thing. And when we got settled down, we were, you know, like, what could it have been? We know it wasn't this. It couldn't have been this, you know. And then all of a sudden, me and Tracy Arnold, we both had backpacks on. And when we realized what we both had in our backpacks, and not once did we think about it, because we were caught up in the moment, we both had night vision devices in our backpacks. Not once did we think about pulling it out to get a better observation, you know, a better view of what we were seeing. And, you know, I hear about that a lot from others too, because you're so caught up in that moment, you're not thinking clearly, you know. So, I mean, it wasn't a scary moment. I guess maybe because we were a group of people, you know, and a lot of people think that's rare. And I was like, you know, usually people that have sightings usually by yourself or something, but there was, me included, there was 6 of us. And till this very day, even after going back and debunking the situation, we tried to debunk it. We went back the next day, did the height comparison, and we were pretty much on point with the way we estimated the heights. And we had one person on the forest road, and yeah, that ground sloped way down until it leveled back out. So it was pretty exciting there. So yeah, but that's pretty much about that there. So anything else before we go to the next slide? All right, Brianna. So yeah, so yeah, as far as overall results can lead to frustration. So yeah, I use this illustration because getting involved with this and wanting to find answers, and you really, sometimes, it's like we get nowhere sometimes. Or at least we believe we are, but then again, you always have others that want to stomp on your, you know, your possibility. You know, we come to conclusions, and we come to, you know, theories. You know, sometimes conclusions and theories are not always good enough, especially, you know, with science, if we're going to try to prove something. I mean, what do we know? What's out there? You know, again, conclusions, possibilities, you know, just could lead to more questions, you know. So, and then the fact is, in the Bigfoot community, a lot of us are acknowledged or aware that science says to prove and understand a body is needed. So, you know, I mean, to some of us, we don't believe that's true, you know, but, you know, in order to prove it to the world, you know, to make it public, you know, to where everybody believes, yeah. A lot of non-believers are not going to believe until science says so, and it's, you know, it's broadcast across the news, because, you know, so there's always going to be that doubt, you know. You know, it's one thing to believe that there's something out there, but if you get out there, get the boots on the ground, and, you know, and maybe you might have the opportunity, because going out in the woods doesn't guarantee a sighting. It doesn't guarantee, you know, you finding enough evidence to believe. But I tell you what, if you're out there enough and you take your time observing, there is evidence out there. There is evidence out there. You just got to take the time and look, you know. So, all right, Brianna, go ahead to the next one.
What kind of evidence do you find around here?
Well, throughout my field observations, you know, I've come across numerous tracks, which I actually failed to bring some with me. And I have, you know, I have tracks. I know Fred can tell you he's found some, I found some, and there is other evidence that we believe that is associated with Bigfoot. One of the things which a lot of people really don't consider, but there is these odd tree formations, odd structures that many of us do associate with Bigfoot. And the thing is, a lot of these structures and formations got to be carefully observed, you know, analyzed, because a lot of these are natural. You know, we've had a lot of rain, we've had a lot of storms. There's a lot of natural tree fall that sometimes forms interesting looking structures and formations. In others, you know, in other situations, there's a lot of formations and a lot of trees. If you take the time to really look, you know, especially like a teepee structure, you know, maybe some of you guys have seen these kind of things out in the woods. A lot of these were made by hands, but, you know, I like to believe that Sasquatch is responsible for a lot of them, but if we believe they are made by hands, we can't say it's Sasquatch. It could be human, but why is a human making these structures deep in the woods? And I mean, I know for a fact that hunters will make ground blinds with natural fallen timber. I've seen that numerous times. But you know, there's some of it, if you take the time to look at it, a lot of these structures and certain twisted trees are, you know, we believe are associated with Bigfoot. Yes, sir.
In that same line of thought, while you're on the subject, I found several trees, saplings, that are probably 3 to 4 inches in diameter, hardwood saplings. Some are broken off, just snapped in half like that.
Oh wow, you mentioned sassafras trees? I thought I heard you say sassafras.
No.
Oh, okay.
Hardwood trees.
Hardwood, okay.
Saplings, that big, you know, like 3, 4 inches in diameter.
Wow, and they weren't rotted?
I'm sorry?
They weren't rotted trees? No?
No, rotted, no.
Okay.
And some were killed and twisted off at the stump,
Oh wow.
and then broken right in half, about 6 feet up. I was talking to one of the fellows here from up north, just as we came in, and he said that he had seen some of the same stuff.
Wow.
And there were no teeth marks.
Yeah.
No teeth marks, no claw marks. Something had to grab these kind of thickened trees and just literally twist them or snap them, and no human alive is capable of doing that. I
believe you. I'll tell you why, because one thing, bears are known for pushing over something. They're going to push things over. They're not going to twist nothing.
No, this sapling that big, and I'm sure it's probably still there, about 3, maybe 4 inches in diameter.
Wow.
Something got twisted off at the base. It actually was still standing, but the fibers from the wood were supporting it. It was just slivers of wood still supporting it, and it had been broken off about 6, 7, maybe 8 feet up high. It had been broken off, snapped into.
Wow. That's, to me, honestly, that sounds like, I would consider that pretty strong evidence. Now, you know, again, science ain't gonna consider that, but me and you, anybody who gets out into the woods or is very familiar with nature in general, a lot of us, we know better because, you know, a lot of us grew up spending time in the woods, you know, seeing what nature does, and, you know, but, you know, on much bigger trees, like, you know, your standing tall hardwood trees and stuff, you know, if a big oak tree, 20 inches, 30 inches around is broken, you know, and you see it twisting that, you know, that's something totally different, you know, because a lot of times.
This tree was not 20 inches.
Right, I know, I'm just using an example.
Like 3 to, I didn't have the tape.
Right.
Somewhere like between 3 and maybe 4 inches in diameter. It was a hardwood. And it was twisted at the base, and then about 6, 7, 8 feet up. I didn't have a tape. It was just snapped right in half.
Yeah.
And then I found another tree on that same trail that had, it was the same, about the same dimension, and it was snapped in half. And I've heard, you know, where she lives, when she was a little girl, she saw them.
I did, I had a sighting.
Really?
Yeah.
Just
It's been like 40 years ago.
Oh, that's all right.
40 years ago, did.
Are you willing to share it openly with them?
Literally, I did have, I was like 7 years old and was sitting at my kitchen window. We lived in Wiggleyville, Virginia, and lived in the woods. And I was like sitting there and I saw this creature. It was a man. And I mean, and I kind of named him Bigfoot myself. And that was actually a word. I mean, I named him Bigfoot.
Right.
And because he was like walking through the woods, and I saw him, and I was like, I was telling my parents about it, and they thought I was crazy. Like, they did. They thought I was crazy. But that night, I mean, I literally had a dream of him. That's how much it messed me up. I had a dream that he was like digging a grave and it's like putting me in it. And yeah, I mean, it was like a nightmare. But no, I know I saw him. And that's I mean, I believe he is out there. He's definitely out there.
Now, could I ask, was that here in Virginia?
Huh?
Was that here in Virginia?
It was in Waylandville, Virginia. Yeah, Waylandville.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's on the eastern shore,
No.
southeastern,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
southeastern.
So, but, I mean, I know I saw him.
Oh, wow.
I mean, till this day, even though it's been 40 years ago, I still just, it never comes out of my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of interesting, a lot of old sightings, actually, right there in, New Hope. I don't know if you're familiar with the area, New Hope, it's right here in Augusta County.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's, my old boss, or one of my old bosses, my supervisor, he kept telling me about his wife had a sighting. She swore, you know, he was telling me that she swore up and down. And, you know, and one thing I thought was fascinating, that she actually came into the work one time, sit down and talk to me about it, and share her sighting with me, you know? And what was interesting, it happened during broad daylight, you know, right in, you know, one of the back roads of New Hope. And by this time, the story is probably about 23, 24 years old now. But she was, with what information she gave me, I mean, you know, she grew up here in the valley, she knows bears, because right where they live, they got bears in their yard all the time. And, you know, and what she saw come out of the tree line, about 6 foot tall, covered in dark brown hair, step out in the middle of the road on her, and then continue on across the road, you know, running parallel with the creek bed. You know, she swore up and down what she saw. She was convinced to this day that she saw a Sasquatch. And
That's what this guy looked like. I'm telling you right now, that's exactly what he looked like.
about, you would say around the same height, about 6 foot?
Yes,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Yeah, it wasn't a bear, or it was a man, but, I mean, it wasn't like a homeless person or anything, because we lived in the country, and he was walking through the woods, and he was like 6 foot tall, and it wasn't a bear, of course, but I'll just never get it out of my mind. And he was like, just like walking through the woods. And
How long was the hair, like really long, hanging off? Or
yeah,
what?
actually the middle picture that you had up there earlier
Yeah.
kind of reminded me of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, I think she was trying to.
I was just asking her, did you see its facial features?
kind of, it was like a man, but he was like, I'm gonna say gorilla.
Right.
I mean,
Did it
but,
look like that middle picture?
yeah, it was like the middle picture, yeah. And, yeah. See, did you see something?
No, I just admire.
Oh, okay.
Yes, okay, thank you.
While we in this open forum type,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I got, if you don't mind, I'd like to mention a few other things.
No, please do.
I do research on big cats,
Okay.
black panthers, and I've done quite a bit of traveling, mostly eastern Mississippi.
Okay.
And over the course of the last 10, 15 years, I've probably encountered at least 8, maybe 10, I didn't keep a record, it's a wasn't that interesting. People that have seen Sasquatch, a Bigfoot type creature.
And you talking in the Mississippi, like Mississippi area?
No, east of the Mississippi.
East of the
States, east of the Mississippi.
Okay.
There was a guy that flew down the county about 10 years ago that was groundhog hunting. And he saw, it was late in the afternoon, he saw one of those big fellows along the edge of a field. And it seemed to be walking back and forth, looking at something at the tree line. He looked at it through the scope of his rifle. He thought about shooting it, but it was so close to being, it had so many features of a human, it looked so human-like,
Right.
he couldn't do it.
I've actually heard that before from others.
There was another guy, a lady out in Kentucky, that I met on one of my trips, that had seen two, and when she was a little girl, she got off the school bus, and there was a fairly long trail back to our house, so I rode back to where she lived off the road. And she walked that road coming back home. And one afternoon, when she got off the school bus, according to her, she said she saw a very unusual Bigfoot. It was Snow White.
Yeah.
The other thing about it was he was standing, or he or she was standing in the middle of her driveway in the wood road, and was taking up the road and had his arms extended like this right to his side to block her coming.
Oh, wow.
She thought the Bigfoot was reroute or was blocking her passage, because the Bigfoot was looking at her for, because she thought something was happening down the road.
Wow.
And there was another sighting out in Highland County.
I've heard of sightings out there.
Yeah. There was a family that lived, and it was a dentist that lived up there for a while. They had a hunter's camp in Beach Land up there. And he contended that there were a group, a male and a female and a youngster that lived on its farm for a while. There were three or four more sightings, like, one was a truck driver and a sawmill that came in early with the truck before they got to work, stopped and worked, and one of those came across, walked across the road in front of him. And there just, no one had any really, I would say, phenomenal experiences with them. In some of my research and reading, I do think I remember reading that Boone killed him. Boone shot him.
Who's that?
Daniel
Oh, Daniel Boone.
out in Kentucky, and one of his warriors into Kentucky, and Boone came across one of them shot.
Yeah, I thought I heard, yeah.
Yeah, she came to,
They got a letter at the historical place in Kentucky that Danny Boone wrote himself, and he admitted shooting one. He said he thought it was a bear, but it was, when he went and checked it out, it was actually a human looking.
Daniel, would you say he broke his cell?
He shot it. He was bear hunting. He thought it was a bear.
Yeah.
When he shot it.
Yeah.
And then when he went up and checked it out, he realized it was human.
Yeah. So it wasn't a bear?
No, it wasn't a bear.
Yeah.
A lot of people say it was, but it really wasn't.
Yeah, that's good, yeah, that's interesting.
So it was documented in Kentucky?
Yeah.
And
The Historical Society Museum, Kentucky Historical Society Museum has the letter that David Boone actually wrote. He admitted, he thought it was a bear.
But it wasn't, oh my God.
Because I wrote Kentucky.
I don't want to distract them.
Oh, no, you're fine.
No,
You're
go
fine.
ahead.
No, I like the interaction. It's actually good. When you share stuff, somebody else might pick up on something that they can share or add into it. So absolutely.
She's my dog. She lives down on the river, South down the river. And I was down there babysitting one night, 2 o'clock in the morning, waiting for her husband to get back from the card game. And I was laying out on the porch in a hammock, and there's nobody else around at that time of night, 2 o'clock. And one of the people there was just me and her son. And you know, heard reports of a Bigfoot taking a piece of wood and banging against a tree. I heard that noise.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that noise, and I think he made like a series of 3 or 4 hits on the tree, and then a few minutes later, I heard it again and again. There's nothing like an accidental bang against a green big oak tree. There's no other sound like that.
Yeah, when you hear it, you know it.
And I know that, you know, there was no other person like that doing it.
So I probably have Bigfoot at my house.
Now, you mentioned South Anna River.
Seriously though, I mean, I don't think I've heard it.
Yeah,
Have
you've
you
heard it.
ever heard it?
You told me you heard it banging on the tree.
I think maybe one night, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it. I have so many bad memories from when I saw him, like 40 years ago. It's not
Yeah.
even-
And you mentioned South Anna River. Are you having to get around the Hanover, Virginia area, or?
Well, literally, my driveway is literally entering Louisa, leaving Hanover.
Oh, okay, so I'm familiar with South, I grew up in Caroline County, so.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that's where I'm at.
Oh, okay.
So it's-
Yeah, because I used to pass into the South Anna River, I used to come from Caroline, head down to Richmond, so.
Yeah, so that's where we're at, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's a lot of wood areas, especially the Louisa area. There's been a lot of reports from Louisa.
Really?
Yeah, I've actually had some, you know, I've shared some brief information, not as much as I would like to have received, but, you know, you'd be surprised that people do share it. I actually had a recent report, and it's not out this way, but it was actually.
What's so funny, things that are in our area right now are coyotes. They're like all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think that would have to do with interact with?
Coyotes, like,
with
associated with Bigfoot.
I mean,
You know, I'll tell you my opinion on that. Everybody has something different, but a lot of people believe that coyotes, Bigfoot interacts or kind of hangs around or follows coyotes, you know. Well, look at coyotes, you know, they'll chase down deer in a group, you know, or whatnot. Well, actually, they'll do it by themselves. I've seen that before, broad daylight, right outside my camp area. Really large coyote chasing a deer, but I think that Bigfoot may use their leftovers. You know, I believe that he could be scavenger. It's easy meal. You know, coyotes are gonna only eat so much of it, and, you know. I don't know. I mean, there's a belief that, you know, a lot of people do believe that coyotes, their vocals. You might hear something you may not recognize. You may think it's coyotes. It's believed that Bigfoot can mimic or sound like a lot of other known animals. Owls, coyotes, for example. Especially owls. I hear a lot of people talk about owls a lot. Especially they have you may hear something, the tone will be way off, a deep,
like a screech owl or.
Yeah, I know out here we have a lot of barred owls. And barred owls produce several different tones, just like coyotes. I can't tell you, I can't remember what it was I read. It was they have over 70, 80, something different vocals, and people still learning about them. But, so I don't know, a lot of our known species have so many different tones and sounds. And some of them can be deceiving.
Right.
What's that?
I'm just hearing what you're saying, you're right, yeah, but like the sounds that they all make are so different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but kind of the same.
Oh, yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, let's take us to the next slide, see what we have here. So, this part right here, this is actually, we're getting ready to come to the end here, but we could hang around for a little while, because, this is basically, I put this up here for anybody wanting to get started, anybody wants to get, starting some boots on the ground and start exploring and wanting to know for themselves. And this is just a simple suggestion, I put up here. Anybody wanting to get started, there's steps I believe that we should look into first. Bigfoot, what do you believe Bigfoot is? Or what do you believe, if you were going to go out there and look for Bigfoot, what do you think you're looking for? And that's, I put find and compare. This is how I look at things. anybody, you know, looking to look for the unknown, all right, you believe Bigfoot like me, this is, I'll share my opinion, where I stand. Again, I believe that Bigfoot is some type of unknown primate, you know, or an ape of his own species. All right, so thinking that he may be some type of ape with what I shared with you guys earlier when I said, well, gorillas, chimpanzees, and all our known primates, they all share these similar behaviors that we experience here in our own neck of the woods here, anywhere from vocals, whatever it may be. So with me believing in, you know, that they are some type of primate, I'm going to start looking at primates. I'm going to use our known our non-human primates as a comparison to do my research, you know. So start studying, like, I don't care if you think he's an alien, well fine, what do we know about aliens? Nothing. What do we know about chimpanzees and gorillas besides what we observe in a zoo? I recommend you, if you believe he might be some kind of primate, read up on him, watch there's a lot of videos where you could actually observe them behaving in certain ways and acting out. And, you know, so, you know, and then find a location where you can start doing your research. One thing about me, when I find a location, I have a geographical map. I have a location, it's part of the National Forest, and there are certain areas of that, you know, where I go into, I call them zones. You know, I call them ECBRO Zone 1, ECBRO Zone 2, and so forth. But there's areas I like to keep a lot of focus in because there's certain areas that's produced a lot of activity over the years. And I observe those areas, watch for changes throughout the years. I know, well, I can tell you what time of year it's going to get really slower in there. You may not even hear or see, you know, hear nothing, whatever it may be. They may be more higher up over this area. You know, this area may be higher ground, produce more over here than this area this time of year. So there's areas I like to, you want to learn the areas, you know the terrain, know what's inhabiting that location, that area, and study it. Get to know it very well, you know, and then go there, visit that location every so often to observe changes. What might be new there, you know, and so, you know, it's simple stuff. If you want to get started, you know, I should have, before I shared anything, like I mentioned earlier too, you want to get familiar with nature, you want to get familiar with your own species, you know, learn about the wildlife that inhabits our forests before you go seeking out Bigfoot, you know, because to me, Bigfoot is a very mysterious creature. So, again, learn what is known before seeking the unknown, you know. There's many of us out here that do what I do. I'm just, you know, compared to how many more out there do this throughout the country, actually throughout the world, I'm just a speck of dust, you know, among all of them. You know, and there's a lot of people out there that do this, you know. I will tell you this much, if you want to get familiar with some of the ones involved with Bigfoot research, a real good friend of mine, who lives down in Bristol, Virginia, Mr. Bill Lancaster, also known, him and his wife, they run Bilko Productions, and you can go on, I believe you can find this on Amazon. It's a DVD called Cultured Bigfoot, and you know, basically it's a well thought out film that displays the passion, not only from the filmmakers point of view, but a community of people searching, you know, so, you know, it's something to really look into. And yeah, Cultured Bigfoot, you know, it gives you an idea of who's involved and, you know, why they're involved, what kind of people they are. And we all come from all walks of life. You know, everybody has a different opinion. Not everybody agrees, you know, because I have several friends involved with this. We all have our own different opinions, beliefs, and that's what's good about it, you know, and because nobody needs to believe just in one person. You know, you consider other possibilities, and that's the fun involved with this. It's learning and just taking the other theories and then make side notes of them. Because when I first got involved with this, after I got, you know, when I learned about social media, there was a lot of people involved with this on social media. for the longest time, I just sat back and observed, you know, hearing all these different theories and these different thoughts about Bigfoot. And I said, wow, you know, there's all these different ideas, and, you know, I really wanted to learn about them, you know, and like look into them. Is there any truth behind these? You know, some of them, you know, throughout the years, I was like, man, some of this is a little bizarre. You know, some of the things that people are saying out there, to me personally, is far-fetched. But you know, sometimes I like to step back and I try to look at things, you know, logical as much as possible. You know, and you know, I'm very objective. You know, in a lot of ways, but over the years, the more I look into things, I've opened up a little bit more to other possibilities that seem impossible. So, but yeah, that's enough of me rambling on. Is there any more questions? Yes, Mike.
Have you considered taking people out into groups and like kind of like you're doing afterwards, or something on a regular basis? Or I mean, because I'd like to learn a little more.
Yeah, I've actually. It's funny you bring it up to this. I've been approached recently by a couple others who had asked if I start forming, you know, more expeditions, and if I could afford to do it more, I definitely would. And that's the thing, people are saying, well, because I always take people out for free, and when I do my expedition, and they're like, you're doing it all wrong. I was like, you need to start charging people, and which, you know, I was like, I feel like if I start charging people, I don't want to be considered that I'm doing this to make profit, you know, but yet people don't understand it does cost money to take time away from what you're doing, you know, and bring other people out there. I go out there all the time by myself as much as possible when time permits, you know, if I'm not working, you know, because a lot of people don't realize, you know, for people like me, I work just like all of you guys do, and trying to keep a roof over their head. So yeah, I have actually considered, you know, try to become more organized and, you know, try to form groups, you know, take them out there, because I know I've been approached by, you know, a couple people here in Virginia and one in North Carolina, and yeah, they want to get out there, they want to see what's out there. Because there's people that don't have that opportunity, but you know, if they have somebody to take them out there and teach them so they can understand basic nature and wildlife. Because there's people that don't know about wildlife, and that's why we do this. You know, people need to become aware or familiar with wildlife and nature. You know, so if they want to understand Bigfoot, you got to understand something that is known first. So, absolutely, yes.
That's right. I have another question or two.
Yeah.
How big is this cast? I mean, this creature's footprint. You say you have casts.
Yes, most of my casts that I've actually gathered throughout the years, a lot of them average between 15 and 16 inches. I do have one or two, I believe, around the 18-inch mark. So 18 inches is as big as I got.
And how thick, I mean, how wide?
We're looking at anywhere between about 4 inches at the heel up to 6 to 7 inches at the ball of the foot. So, and some of them are almost consistent from the heel up. Some of them are average between 5 and 6 from the heel all the way up. You know, some of the tracks, they do vary. My biggest tracks, a lot of them actually come from one of my real good tracks, which I don't have here. Came from from Virginia, but very close to West Virginia. So.
The shape, is it human-like, or what animal is most familiar, I mean, most similar to the Bigfoot footprint?
To be honest with you, a lot of them, if you see a majority of them, they do look like a large human foot track. Now, there's some places, you know, I can't think right offhand, but I have seen some that actually looked, I don't know, very bizarre. Down in Arkansas, Falk, Arkansas, they do have what they believe to be a three-toed Bigfoot, which I don't know what, you know, maybe some deformity or something, I don't know. But,
that's probably a black man.
Yeah, some believe that, you know, Bigfoot could have some images or casts that I've seen on social media look like it may have like a club foot, you know, which almost resembles a weird type of primate type foot, but most of them are human looking, so, yeah.
And the noises they make?
Noises, a lot of the noises we observe, anywhere from a howl, whoops, you know, some believe they make similar sounds like a bear. You may hear clicking, clocking, I don't know, what do you say, Fred, like a pop sound in the mouth?
They do mouth pops, you know, you ever, there's an original Aboriginal tribe that does mouth pops.
There you go.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah.
They do that, you know,
Yes, I've heard that.
they speak an ancient dialect language, but they throw pops and clicks and stuff like that. And from what I've learned here in my research area, it's, they use that to, like, for humans around, they use that to kind of disguise, if you want to call it that. You know, it's natural for them, you know, but there's an endless possibility how they talk and communicate.
You think they actually communicate, these Bigfoot creatures actually have a,
Of course they do. I mean,
Well,
they may not.
in my research here, you know, we've heard native tongue, we've heard them speak English, but 99.9% we hear mouth pops.
You've heard these creatures speak English?
They mimic.
They really, they do.
Yeah, they can understand you.
You think they do?
They understand everything you say.
Huh.
I wouldn't go that far, but they mimic sounds that they hear routinely.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, the main thing about it, you know, they do understand. Now, like if you go in, and I've learned this, I think Daniel might have in there, I'm not sure, but I've noticed that when they, from videos I've been watching and what I've seen, research, a human goes in and knocks on say like a white oak, like a small white oak, and it sounds like a heat gun going on. But when you hear squatches communicate, you're knocking, you hear a kind of a basic tone.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that way they know it's them, and, you know, they just different ways, you know, but they do communicate through tree knocks, wolf's pops. The ones in my area, they do dove sounds.
They what?
Make dove sounds.
Morning dove sound.
Really? Yeah, do it in area, you know. Daniel's area, we was up there we was up there camping one weekend, and, we was coming out of Fuji, and we was hearing all sorts of stuff, you know, mimics of that, and I told Dennis, watch this, I go, whoop, and not even 30 feet to the right, he screamed. We're like, whoa, you know, we didn't know it, we just come out of there, and it was probably 30 foot away, it was a young one, but he screamed at it like, hey, you know, they do stuff like that, you know.
So are they nice?
Huh?
Are they nice?
Are they aggressive?
That's a good
No,
question.
well, you start in Canada and you come down, you know, and what I've understood by a lot of researchers is that you come down from Canada and Washington State, as you come across the United States, you get smaller and,
More docile.
more docile. Like the ones here, they migrated from that Appalachian Trail. But they come over in the spring, they come over into the valley because we got mountain laurel out in Union, and it's a safe place for them. We have plenty of food, water, everything, you know, and they feel safe.
I mean, they're nice if you don't mess with them, right?
Well, I think it would be, you know, they have like moms, dads, sons, all this stuff like that, you know, but they, as any wild creature, they go, it's like a bear. In my area, I got a big sow. He's seen him, you know, and she's got cubs. And even though you just be about long, you know, and you see a cub, oh, it's a pretty cub. Mom comes on, she sees it. Mama will die protecting them cubs. And any parent will protect their young ones. It's natural. You know,
Well, my question is though, like if you tried to try to go talk to them or
Talk to
something,
them?
would they,
No, they just stand and look at it.
they wouldn't hurt you? Yeah. That was for my question.
If I went into
Yeah, they
woods,
wouldn't.
if I went into woods and just say I was a BB gun and pop one in the butt, a little bit, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
It might become airborne after backs on
But as a parent, you know, we got 5 planes in my area, you know, and every time we see them, what you're doing, you're crossing the road, you're going up on a mountain to, get food, you know? And we got the opportunity to watch these creatures. And, you know, people don't really, you know, people say that blah, 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 but once you actually see them, you know, and like we got 2 guards on each side of the camp, they're 18 foot tall, they're brothers, you know. But they'll stand there until all the other ones cross the road, and then they disappear.
Basically what he's saying is, you
It's a
show me
great
respect,
story, actually.
they'll show you respect.
Exactly, you know, Daniel's area, his area is very, very bold, very bold. Mine, you won't see, you won't know the area till you see it. But his is,
A lot of times, I mean, depending on the time of year now,
yeah,
you'll hear a lot of crazy stuff out there. I mean, all the wildlife will act up. And usually when that wildlife starts acting up, like especially sitting around the camp area, you start hearing owls, you know, especially when they start communicating. It's one thing I tell people, because this is something I picked up, this is an observation I picked up over a period of time. And for the longest time it's been going on, I just didn't realize it. But owls, you start listening to them communicate. You know, say if they start up around 9 o'clock, you know, at night while you're sitting around the campfire, just hanging out at camp. And usually, sometime after that, following, or leading, you know, something that usually ends up following that, you start hearing the other things that are surrounding you. You know, you'll hear anywhere from what we talked about, the tree knocks. You know, Dad's been out there in our camp, you know, and he got to experience a really hard, loud tree knock right across from our camp. And after that tree camp, you know, that tree knock, you know, we've had other things. We started hearing other vocalizations. We've heard movement around us, you know, and, you know, it's like, sometimes activity always follows after hearing certain wildlife. And I always thought maybe it was just a coincidence, but I don't know, it's like nature knows there's something else out here that's stirring something up. I don't know, like they're just preparing you, and they're just like, it's all like they're giving you a heads up, like, or, you know, without realizing it. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but it's just an observation that I've actually picked up, you know. I've heard people talking about if you hear a bunch of crows out in the woods, they're usually creating some kind of commotion for something that's in the area. But to me, I've heard about just something to do with the owls at night. It always follows with others' bizarre activity. So it's, I don't know, it's very interesting. But you know, you were talking about the aggression and stuff too. One thing that came to mind, you know, like in our situation back in 2014, to a report that's happened out there west of Sigmund's Glen many years ago. There were 3 campers. It was probably over 30-some years ago. 3 campers were out camping, and one of them had to split off from camp to go take care of business. When he got to the location where he was at, before he had a chance to do anything, he started some rustling in the bushes right next to him. He turns around and he's face to face with a 7-foot-tall creature just staring at him 5 feet away. And for many years, well, first of all, after that happened, he ran back to camp, you know, not telling nobody. He was so frightened, he never told the other 2 campers what had happened. And they knew something happened, but they didn't know what. That man never went to sleep at night. He stayed at the fire, keeping it blazing all night long. And it wasn't until so many years later, one of the other fellow campers reached out to him, got him to talk about it, and he shared that story. So, you know, there was no signs of aggression. It was like, maybe they startled each other. It was like, Bigfoot was like, yeah, I'm here first. We do, you know, whatever. And Tracy Arnold, when he had his sighting, he was about 20, he claimed he was about 24 feet away. And it was just a staring contest, eye to eye. There was no growls, nothing. And, you know, but I don't know, to me, I believe they're just curious. They're just, you catch them off guard sometimes. According to these sightings, I feel like a lot of them are being caught off guard, you know, and you just happen to be in the right place at the right time. And just like like Fred was talking about, any wildlife, you know, you just don't present the opportunity for them to be aggressive. You know, any animal can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, just don't put them in that position. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In regards to the big bear Fred was talking about, I seen the bear out of deer hunting. And a lot of times they have these control burns in the forest. And I come across, I was walking from where I was sitting to sit in a different spot. And I'm looking at something and it wasn't moving, but it looked like a big black rubber stump. And we find out it was like a 500 or 600 pound black bear. She lifted her head up from behind the tree. She stared at me for about 15 seconds and just stared at each other. Most of the time, a black bear will run in the opposite direction. Thank God she did. I mean, I was shaking, and here I am with a high-powered rifle in my hand. And I'm shaking, and I knew, you know, I was very close. I probably wasn't 40 yards away. And she turned around, and she was digging and probably eating grubs and stuff, and she turned around and just ran off the other way.
That's really not scary.
But the worst scenario is to get between a mother bear and her cubs.
Right.
Very dangerous. Just hope you don't have any cubs if you ever run into a bear. You go run the other way.
That's what I do if I run into
Kind
here.
of scary.
I get scared when I run into like a little snake that big.
So, do we have any other questions or anything you guys want to share? Yes, in the back.
We've had a couple of experiences. I can actually see anything, but we can't figure out anything else that would have been the cause of the activity that we experienced. We were over in, the first one was over last year near Cass, West Virginia, about 10 miles back in the mountains. We were camping. We do a horseback ride, a camping trip every year, a group of us, and there's 6 of us, and we were camping on the E.C.B.R.O River Trail, and we had followed the trail a number of miles into the mountains, and then we had left the E.C.B.R.O River and started up the mountains on the trail, and we were probably a half hour up into the mountains, and we're going along the side of the mountain, and there's a flat area to our left, probably 75 or 100 yards of flat work before it starts going back up, and a drop off on our other side. And as we're going along, we hear something coming through what sounds like the treetops. We thought perhaps a squirrel or an owl or something had gotten spooked and was flying through the trees. 3 of us looked up into the trees because that's where the noise was coming from, and a rock about this big came out of the tops of the trees.
Oh, wow.
And landed behind my horse and in front of the horse behind me. So it did not roll off of anything. It was thrown high enough to go through the trees. 3 of us that were right there where the rock hit, we looked at each other and said, we thought it was a squirrel or a large bird, pheasant or something that had been spooked. Because it was up high enough to be in the leaves of the trees as it came at us. So it almost hit us, but it did land in between 2 horses, hit the trail, and then rolled off. I can't think of anything else that would have thrown a rock that big, because I saw the rock come out of the tree line and land behind me.
Yeah, besides a person with hands, you know,
And
holding
the
a phone.
idea that somebody would have been that far back in the mountains on
Right.
the off chance that somebody might be going up that trail, we were very, very far away. We had been riding for several hours, so we were very far out in the middle of nowhere. I can't imagine somebody could have just been sitting up there hoping someone would come up that trail, that they could throw a rock at them.
Actually, yeah.
So, the other one was here in Augusta County, just actually about 10 days ago.
Oh, wow.
My husband and I'm doing a benefit trail ride for a local therapeutic riding program here in Augusta County. And so we're working on trails, and we were clearing trails, and there was a number of this old logging road. Do you know where Height Hollow is? It's
Sounds
out,
familiar, I'm not sure.
it's out off of 42 towards Craigsleville, past the Augusta Springs wetlands.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're back out that way. We go out Height Hollow, and then we make a left on Archer Run. And as you go up there, maybe half a mile, or 3/4 of a mile, there's a bar gate with an old logging road that goes back into the mountains. We're clearing that road, and there was a bunch of trees down. My husband, I was not with him, but my husband walked with a chainsaw out that road and was clearing deadfalls off that trail, off that old logging road. He was a couple miles back in there, and he he went through a section of young pines, but there's a lot of them, and he's walking through this trail, and he goes out and he cuts a bunch of other trees, and the whole purpose is to make sure there's nothing on the trail at this point. And he starts back, as he's cut all the trees, he's walking back, comes past through those pines, and he said 5 or 6 feet up, one of the pines that was not broke when he went out was snapped off clean near the top, about 5 or 6 feet up.
Wow.
There's all these other pines all around it, and it was laid over in the trail, which you would have noticed.
Oh, yeah, easily, yeah.
So it was laid over in the trail. And he thought that was strange, and he looked around, there's a bank on that top, on the side. It's possible a deer may have jumped off that bank, but most of the time, a deer's just gonna slide down the bank. It was probably an 8 or 10 foot tall, not particularly steep bank. I don't see, a deer would have had to been running and flew off that bank to hit a tree enough to break it. The pine was about this big around.
Yeah.
Then, as he walked a little further, along that same trail that he just traveled, there was a rock, a flat type of rock about this big. And he said it was not there, it was laying on the trail, and as he looked around, he could see scuff marks where it looked like somebody had thrown it like a frisbee and had bounced and landed in the trail. And he was not there when he went out either. So as he come back, it looked like, he can't think of any other thing that could have thrown a large rock this big like a frisbee. He's not sure he believes in Bigfoot, but he does admit that he walked a little faster than the rest of us. So, I can show you where those areas are.
Because he went in there alone as far as
He
you
was
know.
in there alone, and he'd been a couple of hours from the time he had walked in past that area. There was a number of deadfalls way back in there. It took a while to walk, and he took a while to cut all that stuff, so it was probably 2 hours before he came back past that area.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was about 10 days ago.
What's that?
That was about 10 days ago.
Yeah, it's probably, sounds like it's on the left, on the other side, like over there.
Take a look. There's a big high.
We've also heard tree knocks at our house. We live surrounded by national forest and across the highways and wildlife management area. And we have a large tree in my front yard, and my husband did buy me one of these big hickory handle things. And everyone, not all the time, but sometimes when you knock at that at night, late at night, we will hear return knocks from the wildlife management area mountain across the way.
Wow.
How far away is it now?
They are up on the top, at least at the top of that, or as the crow flies, probably a mile, half a mile to a mile away.
You hear
At night, because it's on, there's a mountains, we sit on the edge, on the one side of a mountain, and then across this way is another mountain. And so when we knock, sometimes we'll hear stuff from that one, and you can hear it at night. There's no noise out where we live.
Yeah.
And it's between two mountains, so it echoes.
It's hot back there. It's hot back.
Oh, yeah. It is very well wooded. I'm somewhat familiar with it because I know, well, Fred knows the area very well. And there's a shooting range out there past Augusta Springs. Yeah, I usually go to the shooting range out there too, so.
Yeah, out there on Highland.
Yeah.
Just that little shooting range off that, not the Shenandoah Gun Club, right?
No, it's a public one for the National Forest.
It's the opposite ridge on the opposite side of the road is where my husband was,
Okay.
from the shooting range.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, there was a few of us that actually camped out on some private property out that way. They've experienced things in the past, and there was a strange hair that was found out there. We camped on the property to search the property, to have some time to investigate it. Find a few interesting things, but I've always heard of other things surrounding that area. Because I know Fred, him and Connie were out that way not long ago. Actually found some tracks and everything out there too. So, but I would definitely say it's very squatchy, as we put it, out there.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
my husband come back and told me all that. He said, he stopped and he looked at the ground, and now there's no tracks because it's very sandy, kind of rockish, areas, and
Yeah.
he wasn't making, there just wasn't, even the horses don't make a lot of tracks in that area.
Right.
But he looked at the ground and he looked at the surroundings and he couldn't think of anything else that could have broke that tree where, how high it was broke, and laid it right on across the trail, or tossed that big flat rock. And he had to lift it and move it out of the way, so he would have had to have walked across that had it been there when he went out.
Oh,
Because he
absolutely.
had to walk across it. He said it was at least this big around. And you
Yeah.
could see the scuff marks on the ground where it seemed to have skipped along, skipped as it was thrown into the path.
Yeah, a lot of times, you would pretty much pick up on that if you know for sure that, wait a minute, I can cross this, and sometimes that could also play trick in my mind, wait a minute, you know? Well, yeah.
But he was out there for the express purpose of clearing that trail, so he was looking for things like that to push off or get off the trail. So he would have seen that rock and moved it
Yeah,
on his way out.
that trail, you know, is that a public?
Yeah, it's public, and there's a parking area right there at that gate too.
Okay. Huh.
I can show you where it is sometime if you want to.
Yeah, definitely, I definitely want to check it here. I have a general thought where it's at, but again, I'm not so sure either. So, yeah, definitely like the
It
galaxy.
goes way, way down for a couple of miles, and then the road type part of it ends, but then a trail comes on and continues out through the mountains, and eventually it comes down a number of miles down out on Archie Road.
Okay,
So it winds up through the mountains and eventually it comes back down.
very awesome. So, yeah, it would, is there, if somebody wanted to camp back there, would
Yeah, there's
they?
actually, on Archer Run along that road, there's several camp areas. There's public camping areas along there.
Right. So that's the kind of camping I like to do, primitive
It's
camping.
primitive camping,
Yeah.
it's just open areas with, you can make a fire pit and they clear the trees away, and it's just pull-offs where you can go in and make a camp.
Yeah, so that's usually my kind of camping, like out there west Augusta, like where I camp a lot, Elkhorn Lake. You know, there's a spot, I usually camp across from the entrance of the lake, because there's, they actually have bathrooms there, so it's convenient, you know, but, yeah, that's actually pretty good. I'd definitely like to learn more about that area too. Cause yeah, that area there, it seems seems to be a cluster and a connection there, there's something going on there. And you said that was only 10 days ago?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Anyone else have any other questions? Fred, did you still want to get up here? All right. Well, Fred, come on up here and introduce yourself. Fred had agreed to share some information. Me and Fred were real good friends, and you know, we have a lot of different points of views and opinions on things. You know, we agree to disagree on a lot of things. So, so go ahead, Fred. It's all you.
Okay. I'm Fred Caney, and we run the Virginia Mountain Bigfoot Research Organization.
My phone's dead anyway.
In Augusta County and the surrounding counties and everything. I've been doing this for 39 years. My first experience was in Doe Hill, Virginia, on Jack Mountain, 1981. I was going up on the mountain to do some squirrel hunting, and I stopped and turned around and looked back at what my dad was doing, and I turned back around, and I had a 9-footer about 5 feet in front of me. And the only thing I could, when I turned around, the first thing I saw was, looked like a wall. And it was made Arnold Schwarzenegger look for it and look like little wimps. But his eyes, you can see the color of his eyes, but they have no white in it. Their eyes are brown or black or something like that. And at nighttime, you see eye shine, you see white, yellow, yellowish orange, emerald green, and red. These creatures are the only creatures I know that have when the eyes are white, they have a black line that runs from one side of the eyeball to the other. Now, at my camp, or at our camp, my research area is on the coal roads. And right there in the Kennedy Ridge area. And we have 5 to 6 clans, which is family units that live in the area. What they do is they migrate the Appalachian Trail in the fall of the season, and in the springtime they come back. And they come over into Shenandoah Valley, and in my research area, it's the birthing areas. because I know our birthdays, what they do, they come in and give birth. Now, Sasquatch will come back to where they were born at to give birth or for partners to give birth. And the juveniles are taught to be elusive. And what I mean by elusive is the juveniles have tried to get as close as they can to touch a human without being noticed. One night at my camp this past summer, we had a friend of mine, and his high is music. And, we're sitting there at the camp, and me and my wife goes to bed, his wife goes to bed, and his mom goes to bed. About 20 minutes later, he yells, "I just got touched." And I told him, well, I said, "You will be touched by a juvenile." And I went out there and I said, "Where were you standing?" Somewhere we were standing. So he touched him right here. I took a flashlight and went down, and I found two footprints about this big, a left foot and the right foot. And I told him, I said, "They're right there." I took the flashlight, boom, there they were sitting there. But juvenile is curious. We've learned that we've got photographs of, matter of fact, on my phone now, I got a photograph of a baby Sasquatch looking at us. We've got, I ain't got no fingers to tell you how many photographs of these creatures we got. But right now, I'm working on the language of these creatures. And what I am gathering, and people don't realize it, but these creatures speak an ancient native dialect language. Like here in Virginia, it's the ancient Cherokee dialect. When me and my girlfriend go in the woods, she'll do two wolves, like whoop, whoop, to each side, and I'll go, "O-C-O, iya, neha." O-C-O means hello. Iya means I'm your friend, and neha means I mean you no harm. And within a few minutes or seconds, we'll hear a tree knock, we'll have rocks thrown at us, or we'll hear water. Now people wonder why they have rocks thrown at them. Juveniles, it's like a kid. They look like a human, but they just got a conical head. Some look like apes, some look like humans. Like the 18-footer we got in my area, we got two of them, they're brothers, John and Henry. Now,
Did you say 18 feet?
yeah, 18-footer. They do get big. But a lot of people don't see them because these creatures are very elusive. They're like a buck.
Hey.
Okay? It's like an elusive buck. They're like that to a point. But what they do, these two guys I've known since they were 4 foot tall. I've been researching 39 years, and these two clowns were the first ones that I've ever had run-ins to, because I started out with cinnamon buns, just for kicks and giggles. And now that they're 18 foot tall, I'll mention cinnamon rolls and their eyes get big. But they are a human hybrid. Now, Daniel's research is a little different. It's a little different from mine, but we're doing the same exact thing. Now, I don't use science. I study through the Native Americans. And in 1991, I had DNA done I was employed at National Institute of Health in Rochester, Maryland. Well, I come back to my research here one weekend, and I found hair, saliva, and blood. Took it back to NIH, and they got in touch, about 3 days later, they gave me a piece of paper. And he said, "What do I got?" And he said, "Whatever it is, it's 98% human, 2% Neanderthal." And I've talked to 2 other government officials, and DNA specialists said the exact same thing I got, but the government knows what they are. They know. We are out here, and we got to work for what we get, to find out the evidence and everything, Right now, we have 90 extinct native languages that are extinct in the United States. And in my area, it's the ancient Cherokee dialect. And the dialect is the language that hasn't been spoken in thousands of years. Now, the shamans, the elders, and the spiritualists know how to speak. And the younger generation really don't pay attention to it. But everything I'm learning through natives, like the structures. As Daniel said, A lot of it is nature, but a Sasquatch will always, when they make a structure, you can take a stick, big as my pinky, and you can try to bend it and twist it and make it stay, and we can't do it. We've got trees that, well, when a Squatch bends, what they do is they stretch the back part of it, stretch it out, and the bottom part, they draw it in, and it stays. But what people don't realize is when they do it, they always, better example yet, you walk through the woods and all of a sudden you see these little sucker trees, but the big around, all of a sudden they're snap and just laying in one direction. But if you look at them, you see they got a twist in it. All right? You stand behind that break, and you'll see another one, and you'll see another one, and you'll see another one. What it does is take you to a birthing area, bedding area, it'll take you to food, and it'll take you to water. If you think about it, 1,000 years ago, that's what the natives did. They communicated. So the way I'm researching is the structures is a story. It tells you stuff. It'll tell you which way they're going. It'll tell you how many's in a group. It'll tell you where, tell you which way, it'll tell you what food, water, birthing area, and stuff like that is. That's what I want. And I use the ancient native dialects, you know, cave wagon walls and, you know, stuff like that. And when you match them up, it gives you a word. You read that word, it tells you a story through the Native Americans about these creatures. The creatures, natives have been living along beside Sasquatch for thousands and thousands of years. And people really don't, people really don't understand it, like the language part. If y'all ever heard of Ron Moorhead, he's the one done the 1976 Sierra sounds. All right. I've been studying the language, and one day M.K. Davis was listening to Ron Moorhead's thing, and one of the recordings, he slowed it down 50%, and you notice that you hear a native language. Now here in my area is ancient Cherokee dialect. We've heard natives singing, we've heard English, and as most people hear it, samurai chatter. You take any recording of a Sasquatch, if someone says that they got out of the woods, copy it and slow it down. As you slow it down further, you start hearing a language. What that language is, in my opinion, is a native tongue. There is about 90 extinct native languages. The last known language that went extinct, or the tribal extinct, was the Chumuckman tribes on the northern peninsula of Washington State. But I think Daniel read these, I think he said that their language was sloppily used to the 1940s.
Early, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, you know. But their language did go extinct. And there's a lot of, and if you want to learn about the lost languages, you can try to look it up. But I find it easier just to talk to a shaman, a spiritualist, or a elder. They know about these stuff like that. But the Squatches, they live in family units, just like we do. They have mom, dad, brothers like that. And the way I'm seeing it, they are the original natives. They're very intelligent. I've taken, and I found out because the guy told us about it. We used to game camera in my area, just right next to my camp. We put a jar of honey, and we come back about 4 hours later, my camera was cocked like this. And we found out what they do. This is how intelligent we found out. They'll come up behind it and they'll slide a finger over the central light. And when they get the bait, whatever they're gonna get, they move their finger, click, click, click. There's 1 minute you see the bait there, next thing you know, 2 pictures later, it's nothing there. But the day that Sasquatch did that, when he turned that camera, he caught his buddy up in the tree watching our camp. So now we're figuring out how they're doing. They're very crafty creatures. They're very intelligent, and like I say, like we got 2 18-footers. We had a phenomenon that one night, but I'll let that one ride. No, I'll tell you anyway. I went to the car one night, and while we were sitting there, we had juveniles running up a tree, about 45, 50 yards away, and they get up and they were going nuts. Top tree was going like this, And I said, I'm going to get a battery for my camera. So I went up to the car, and when I shut the door, there was about 20 feet from me, there was an 8-footer standing there. And his eyes were bluish gray. And I'm like, okay, what's that mean? And then he turned his head, and I counted 26 squatches all the way around the camp. And when we got out, when I got back to camp, I told Connie, I said, there's 26 squatches around the camp. She said, look out the road. Well, when I did, this is like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, maybe 11. And over the road, we seen an 18-footer walking down the road. And about 2 foot behind it, about 2 foot taller, there was a 20-foot walk. You know, and I was blown away. I told Daniel about it to everybody, and everybody said, you know, there's no such thing as a 20-footer, because no one's ever seen it. The very next day, I got a call from a Cherokee shaman from North Carolina, and he told me that what me and my wife seen that night was a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon. What the situation was, the reason the juveniles was up in the tree and all the squatchers around the camp was to protect the juveniles from that 20-footer. They found out that whenever when the 20-footers are called the true giants of the woods. They are the ones no one ever sees. We got lucky and we seen it one time and we've never seen it since. But through the Native Americans, 20-footers and bigger, like up in Canada, it's been recorded they're 26-footer in Canada. They do get big up there, and they're very aggressive. You know, people say, why do they try to hurt you like that? Well, if you've been shot at, chased through the woods and all that stuff, you'd be kind of aggravated too. But around here, they're laid back. Daniel's area, they're very, very full. I mean, if I can come out we come out the road and I whoop, and all of a sudden about 30 feet over here, very bold. My area, you don't hear them, you see them. What they do is they come out from their nest, or bedding areas, whatever you want to call them, and they come out and they cross the road on each side of our camp. You got the 2 18-footers that stand, they're the guards. And what happens is they come across the road to go over a mountain to feed. Get deer hunt, whatever, you know. And we got the opportunity to see juveniles. We got pictures of my car. I've got a handprint from here down 8.5 inches wide, pushed on the back of my car. We got a full handprint that you can put in the palm of my hand. Juveniles touching. Plus, I even got 2 9-inch tracks on the hood of my trunk. You know, that they're curious, but they're, you know, they are very curious. If you walk through the woods and you get a rock thrown at you, it's a little pebble, pick it up, look at it kind of like, now you drop the rock and throw it back at it, just chug it, and go on. You pique their curiosity. And it's like it's back when we were kids, the circus would come to a town, and the only way you could see is through a hole in the fence. The curiosity, like I said, curiosity kills the cat. Well, that's the way the juveniles are. They are so curious, they're going to follow you. And they're going to hide, they're going to see what you're doing. And what people don't know is, when you're walking down the trail, all of a sudden you hear a little on your left and a little on your right. Without subconsciously thinking, they just give the location away. And then every time they knock, they're giving the location away. I got videos on how to make a squatch give his location away without him knowing about it and catch him on video. I mean, we got a whole bunch of stuff, you know, but the bottom line is, you know, science knows the real. The government knows the real. But now's not the time to actually release the date and everything, you know. But as far as what happens in Daniel's area, what happens all over the United States, every clan of Squatch is different. Everybody has different, like the young lady was talking about with her husband up there at Augusta Springs. That could happen one day, it might not happen again for 5 or 6 years, you know. It's just the way they are, you know, and they're really, usually the adults that stand around is juveniles that'll really do the wild thing, you know, but they will knock on trees, they will wolf, they will mess with you, you know, playing and stuff like that, you know. And a lot of people don't understand that. Now, in my research here, you know, we have the opportunity to see these creatures. You know, when Daniel had his conference, we had we had, quite a few people at the camp, and everybody was wanting to see the squash located. Well, I'm on one side of town with another guy looking at a juvenile run up and down the creek. The creek's about 8 feet from about 10 feet from my camp, watching squash, the juvenile run up and down there. On the other side of the camp, where everybody was at, there's 6 juveniles come right out in the open and stood there with big yellow eyes, and everybody was watching them, you know. And they did that for a while, you know, and then after a while, they go on back. So actually, they're studying us and we're studying them. That's why they follow, because they want to see what we're doing. And I think it's really intriguing about these squatches, you know. But with me, the way I research, you know, I'm researching to the Native Americans, you know, and I'm learning that they do, in my opinion, that they do and are speaking an ancient native tongue that has been spoken in thousands of years, you know. But right now it's just a theory, you know, because everybody's starting to realize that people say, oh, they don't talk, they jibber jabber, there's an unknown language or it's a non-human language, you know, it doesn't make a difference, you know. There's 1,000,001 theories on one language, or 1,000,001 theories on what Sasquatch actually is. Now, my DNA says 98.5. 98% human, 2% Neanderthal. Now, somewhere down the road, could you have the same hair samples? Hair samples would be completely different. You know, all hair samples not going to be the same. Squatch's hair is translucent, which causes them to blend in. See, our minds are trained to look for something hidden. A Sasquatch will stand, like, she took a picture of me one day, 25 yards away. Took a picture, posted on Facebook, said, what's in this picture? People said, there's nothing in the picture. She zoomed in and said, that's Freddie standing there. All right, what's that tell you? I hid, but I was in the open. Well, I didn't realize that 30 feet behind me, there was a 6-foot Squatch standing right out in the open. Standing right there, just like this next to a burnt pine tree. Like Danny Day said, they do a controlled burn in certain areas. Well, he matched that tree. And I looked right there, but I didn't notice it. But they hide in the open. Next to a tree, or they look right behind a tree and sit there and freeze like that. And the reason they do, if you think about a bobcat or a mountain lion, they can sit there and watch you for hours and hours. They'll watch a prey for hours and won't even move a muscle. Well, that's what squatches do. They hide in the open, but our minds are trained to look for something that is hidden behind a rock, behind a tree, behind a car, on the ground, something like that, you know, and that's something they do. And people don't realize that, you know. But there's, 39 years, you know, it's like you just start to begin, because there is, every day when I go out in the woods, I learn something new. Whether it be a structure, it might be a family unit, you know, that they do rock stacks. They do all sorts of stuff. I found it.
I was going to ask you that question. Does Sasquatch make a little conical shape, pyramidal shape rock pile about this tall?
They could.
Is that a characteristic of it?
I think the weirdest thing I've seen is in the creek one day. I was up here next to Cold Springs Reservoir. I was researching one day, you know, and I was in the creek, you know, and I found it was like rock, and rock. And starting from the water part of the rock, it looked like a kid was making like a little, in other words, he's trying to tell me where he lived at, you know, and that's what it looked like, you know, because it was like a little bridge and a ladder, and another little bridge and ladder, and when it got to a part with the big rock, it was like a little square, and like a little sidewalk, and a square for a yard.
Well, it could not have been happenstance.
Sir?
It could not have accumulated there in that formation naturally, or happenstance accumulation of rock, no other source that you know of that would do that.
They use trees to communicate, you know, but they, you know, like that one lady said where where her husband come out, the pine was bent or broke.
Yeah.
Now, I've told people, you know, when you see something like that, look at it real carefully, because it's got a twist to the left or to the right. It takes thumbs to do that. Now, yesterday, we found a tree that was like uprooted and it was pushed. Well, in this area, you know, when the young squashes go for females, there's the sassafras has got a blue berry that is like a hallucinant drug to them. And it causes them to go bananas, you know, but the sassafras trees, they'll take and twist it, break it, tie it into knots and everything else, you know. And we found one tree, you know, I said, that's a squash wood, you know. Then Daniels, he mentioned something about a bear. And I said, well, you know, let me check it out. And we found out it was a bear that pushed over. Because a bear would take and push and walk it forward or walk it backwards, paw to paw. Now, some of the structures we've seen in the scratches that didn't match a bear. But on that tree yesterday, we saw 4 perfect bear paws. You know, but we didn't find no bear tracks. We've had the biggest track we found yesterday was what, 22 inches and about 12.5 inches wide at the ball. And we found she's got a plastic cast of a baby footprint like this and a little handprint like this from a newborn juvenile. She got that in Kentucky in her area. You know. But people, you know, people don't think, you know, if they think, you know, yeah, they look like a monkey to a point, and they do chimpanzee, gorilla, you know, they have the same trait, but yet they act human, and they act like wild too. You know? So it's really kind of hard to tell, you know, but, you know, in my research, they are more human, because I have some that look like a Neanderthal. You take Patty from the beginning of Patterson Point, take the hair off her face, and you see a Neanderthal with a conical head. Now, Scott Carpenter has got a video where he lived, his research area is in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. He was walking his dog through a park one day, kind of old cash, you know, in the evening time, and he videoed what looked like a hybrid human. Or in other words, a human with like blotches of hair, you know, looked like he had some deformation, stuff like that, which was a hybrid of a human. That's what it looked like. But it was a squatch, you know. So not every squatch is going to have a conical head. There are some that we do have road ones here. One's got the head shaped like an Egyptian oblong skull. We do have some there. But we got two photographs of 2 of them. And a couple nights later, they was right at my tent building. And this is what blows my mind. I've talked to fire departments, everybody, hunters. I'm an outdoorsman, I'm a predator hunter and everything, you know. But we had in my pit, you know, the fire was going out, but the embers were still hot up to light the inside, because I burn locusts and you know how long it takes that wood to burn, how hot. Well, 1 o'clock in the morning, she was sleeping, 1 o'clock in the morning, I heard, and my fire went out, went black. Then all of a sudden I heard sniffing, and I heard on my parabolic dish, and all of a sudden you get on my oil lantern and on my stove. Well, I picked up a knife and I said, oh, hell, you know, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And there wasn't nothing after that. Went out there the next day and I found, right at the edge of my tarp, I found 2 knuckle prints. But each finger was wide as 2 of my fingers. We got about probably that much of it. But I took my arm and run it down into my pit that far, and it was like I hadn't lit a fire in over a month in that place. So I don't know how they do it, you know, but we do. But there are road ones that do come around. In other words, like biker gangs that are squatches, you know. You do have your bad boys in the groups, you know, involved in that, you know, which is natural, because you know. Chimps have it, apes have it, gorillas have it, you know, where they get, you know, get you guys together and you're like, hey, we're the bad, you guys are a group, you know. Every group's got that. And my clans, you know, there's a couple of little smart pants in there too, you know. But we learn by watching them. And every time you watch them, they're different. I learned one night that when they're around humans at nighttime, they communicate through eye blinks. I watched a juvenile and I watched an adult communicate, and the little one got up and ran. The little one sat 5 feet from my fire pit. The other one stood to the right of the tent. This was like 1 o'clock in the morning, everybody can make it, you know. And if you're camping, you know, and a lot of people say they hear stuff walking around at nighttime, you know, around the wood like a bear or something like that, you know. And sometimes you find footprints, sometimes you don't. They are sneaky. A juvenile, to us, a juvenile, 3 of them ran into our tent at night, you know, to come up and they're running, looking at run, to come back and go slow. Then it gets slow, and when they come up the last time, they just sit there and just, ooh, it's like, ooh, I'm getting close to a human, you know, and your eyes. Just what people don't realize, by that line going through your eyes, and this is what I research. Every color of the eye is a mood. The white is like, I'm a devilish mood. The yellowish orange is, the yellow is curious. Because 90% of the people that see eye shine say, oh, it's a deer. Sasquatches are the only creatures on God's green earth that can draw light from pitch black darkness. That's why a lot of people who research, you know, like at nighttime, be looking out, and all of a sudden they see 2 perfect marbles stand next to a tree. It could be from 3 foot high to 15 foot tall, you know, to example, you know. But then you got yellow, or no, think about yellowish orange, which means they're curious, but they're nervous. Then you got the emerald green. She was that far from a juvenile one night. She went to zip the tent, and when she went up and turned her head, there was a little one looking right in the tent, and they almost bumped heads in it. Of course, she just didn't want to go to bed.
I didn't live for dinner, but I sleep.
And, but their eyes, but the red is agitation, is eerie, they're mad. You know, and that's what I learned.